Oh, yeah, sure.
You came straight over here.
Real
I went
insurance
home,
brokerage.
Okay.
jumped in the shop. See that building?
Boy, that's a tough business to be in there. A lot of bad news for
Right there,
people,
right?
right?
The
About
tower.
their
The
lease.
tower.
Oh my goodness,
What is
it's
that?
horrific.
That is
Yeah.
You know, and then to add that on top of
senior
the
living
flooding and the loss
apartment
and
building.
everything,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
been-
What did you have to do to get over there?
I'm
Yeah.
can't,
military,
words cannot express.
Yeah.
Okay.
so
Thank you.
Yeah, I always liked that building. It's been
Yeah,
here
sure.
for a long time.
1964.
All right, good morning. We're going to go ahead and begin. Can I have you all just come in a little bit, please? Good morning. We're going to go ahead and begin. I want to thank you all for being here for this announcement. I'm Shane Harris, the president and founder of the People's Association of Justice Advocates, and we are here to announce a Public Records Act request that has been made out of my office for in regard to the floods and the city's flood recovery efforts. I want to first and foremost thank Mr. Marco Ortiz, who is joining me here from the Diamond Business Association, and he'll speak just on the important factor and reasoning as to why this is important. And specifically, when we look at the city's budget priorities in regard to storm recovery and the flood recovery efforts, and the underscoring fact of businesses located along the south and eastern parts of the city from downtown. As I have talked about in previous discussions regarding budgets and regarding the reality of how taxpayer dollars are being used in response to this crisis, I just want to lay a little bit of foundation as to why my office is working so hard in regard to stormwater infrastructure in our city, and why this has to be, in my opinion, of the utmost importance going into the 21st century. As we look at stormwater infrastructure, it should be noted that the disaster that took place on January 22nd is a screaming call to action from Mother Nature. It's a screaming call to action from Mother Nature that climate change is saying something to us, and we need to pay attention to that reality. January 22nd was a very challenging day for many, many families across San Diego who were impacted by these floods. It is no coincidence that these floods took out, and when I say took out, I mean took out already the most impoverished and perplexed communities faced with poverty and long-standing economic disinvestment from the city. From South Crest to Southeastern, from Southeastern to Barrio Logan, the reality is that families lost their livelihoods. The clock was rolled back on their lives, and many of them have now a rebuilding process in which they feel left alone. It was noted in the Voice of San Diego this morning in a story by Will Huntsberry that the residents of Southeastern and South and Eastern from downtown, Southeastern parts of our city not only feel left behind, but they feel a great lack of trust. And that is not just because of the January 22nd storms and the response from the city, or the irresponsible response from the city, but they already had trust issues with the city government that is behind me. And so the reality is that I talked about the fact that on January 12th, in the IBA's recent memo that was issued January 12th, the independent budget analysis said that stormwater infrastructure was at the bottom of the list of priorities. The order in which the IBA's memo on January 12th dealt with stormwater infrastructure, it wasn't that stormwater infrastructure was not a top priority, but it was listed at the bottom of priorities. And I talked about the fact that, January 22nd was an amendment or revision to that January 12th memo, because climate change said that that memo needed to read a little differently. And I talked about how in recent weeks, I talked about how D4 has not had a representative. District 4 has been without a council member since Monica Montgomery Stett was elected to the County Board of Supervisors. And the fact is that the D4 office did not submit any updated priorities because of the fact that they're underrepresented. And I noted recently in the primary concerns regarding the budget that stormwater was listed at the bottom. I'm proud to say today, because of the efforts of San Diegans and because of the efforts of the hardworking people, the taxpayers of Districts 4, 8, and 9, that stormwater, in partnership with us and other leaders, we were able to get stormwater listed at the top of infrastructure needs and priorities. That will be brought to the city's full council in the coming weeks. But, my friends, this battle to get an issue that has been in our face for the last 50 plus years, because our infrastructure is 50 to 70 years outdated. The fight to get this infrastructure as a top priority and to ensure that there's a commitment from the city beyond taxing the same people who have been most impacted more and more and more and more, the fight to get that done, my friends, is going to be a real fight. Because the only solution that the council can come up with, and many of our colleagues on the council can come up with, is that they will tax the people more and more and more. Now, I don't have a problem with taxing the people. The reality is that sometimes we have to do that because of the deficits that we sit in. We can't sit on our hands, my friends, and not do anything. We have to do something. But the concern I have with the proposal from the council president, Shanila Rivera, is that it doesn't constitute a real strategy from the city and a commitment from the city level. Many of my team members have advised me on this reality that the city must come up with a commitment in order to ask the people for more money. And it is daunting to me and troubling to me that the only solution that the council president could come up with is to tax the same people, many of whom have been displaced by the floods, more money when they get in their next home through their water bill. And that, my friends, they say is going to make the difference. Well, today I say no. Taxing the people more is not a good solution on its face. We need a little bit more than that. We need a little bit of creativity, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of planning and working and consensus building to ensure that we not only get a tax on the ballot or a stormwater utility, which has also been brought up in recent proposals, but that we would key in on the reality that the people of San Diego are tired of being taxed more money without a real commitment from the city to even match that or do something to support and show the people that their money, their hardworking taxpayer dollars, will go toward the needs that they see in their communities. That playbook is old, it's outdated, and it's something that has to change. I've been a longstanding Democrat, but one of the problems that I have with our Democratic Council is that they come from that old school playbook that Democrats have long stood by. Tax the people more and put out less results from the tax dollars that are being invested. That has to change about government. The people deserve a commitment from the city as much as the city deserves a taxpayer commitment from the people. This is a relationship that must go back and forth and must be built on trust. So that lays the foundation, my friends, for the reality of stormwater and where we are today. Today, I am announcing a request that my office has made in regard to stormwater, in regard to the storm and floods recovery fact is the city has spent monumental dollars fighting back and trying to recover and help residents across our city recover from the floods that damaged and perplexed many families who have been impacted across our region. It is noted that over 1,000, at least 1,000 families have been displaced due to these floods. And today, I want some answers from the city of San Diego. My office has issued a Public Records Act request for information pertaining to the city's relief and recovery efforts. We want to find out where exactly the money has gone, what the city's biggest commitment has been, and that is why we're making this request on behalf of the taxpayers of San Diego. The reality is that there is a great concern that there could be a reality in which the city has invested in this crisis more money in personnel than they've invested in people. The way I look at personnel and people is that they're both equal. They're both the same. Personnel are important because they drive the relief and recovery efforts of our city. I want to thank the firefighters and the city workers who have made the recovery efforts possible and cleaned up the creeks that they could have cleaned before January 22nd. But I also want to underscore the reality that the money that has been spent should have been equally invested in the people who have been displaced. And the reason why we're requesting the breakdown and the amount in which has been spent by the city on relief efforts is because we are hearing horrific stories of families that are not able, literally, to stay in the hotel rooms that they've been placed in. Families that are seeing that they're going to have to be displaced again because there's no real commitment from the city, from the county, to really make sure that these folks have a place to stay. Their relief and recovery is going to be at least 90 days, at best, and over a year and even longer at worst. We have to do everything in San Diego to ensure that these folks who have faced the brunt of bad policy making and horrific spending, who have faced the brunt of the irresponsible nature and use of taxpayer dollars, this is a moment not to keep going down those same habits, but to demonstrate that you're going to do something different. And so today, I'm requesting the following from the San Diego Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan. My office has requested in a PRA request that was issued earlier this week that they inform us of the total amount that the city has spent on the recovery efforts related to the floods, which occurred from January 22nd to February 7th, 2024. And I'm asking for this information through the date of February 12th. My office also wants to see an itemization of the total amount spent toward the recovery efforts through Friday, February 12th, 2024. It is important that taxpayers see how much the city has spent on its recovery efforts. And it is equally important that taxpayers see the breakdown of how those funds were spent. Did it go to personnel? And how much? Did it go to nonprofits or small businesses? And how much? Did it go to families who were displaced? And how much? Finally, I'll say this. Just a week ago, the mayor stood with the San Diego Black Chamber of Commerce and the Asian Business Association and the Strategic Alliance, the cultural group of chambers, and announced they plan to invest $500,000 in small businesses who were affected by the floods. $500,000. Because we did the math, and that's what it actually comes down to. $500,000. I noted in a council meeting in which the mayor presented his plan to help small businesses recover who were affected by the floods, that the mayor, out of his personal budget, $10 million is what he's spending on these relief efforts. He should commit at least $1 million. To me, it is irresponsible for the city to spend less than $1 million on relief and recovery efforts. And it is important that the city shows its commitment to small businesses and ensures that we, the taxpayers, get our due compensation and that the people of the city are able to be supported in more tremendous ways. It is my honor now to invite the president of the Diamond Business Association, Mr. Marco Ortiz, and then I'll close out. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, everyone. So happy to be here. As the president of the Diamond Business Association, I have seen firsthand the devastation and damage to many of our members, business owners who are just small, most of them pop and mom type of shops that have now been affected by this tremendous and unprecedented floods. As the president of the Diamond Business Association, I have also seen the devastation, of course, of the communities and people. Now, as a business owner in the district by Market Creek Plaza and the Market Creek, I was actually directly affected. Our building was completely flooded, and I was able to see firsthand the devastation of the uncleanliness of the creek. I was able to witness and see all the debris, trash, and other brush and other tree items that blocked the creek and therefore caused a lot of the flooding. As a business owner, I can tell you that no small amount of help can be coming anytime soon. I saw through the 211 app and the website the possibility of the grant from $2,500 to $5,000. As I was looking at the numbers, I couldn't but laugh and almost cry to see how slow of a response there was for businesses. This has affected me directly as a business owner, but as the president of the Diamond Business Association, I have seen the devastation in many of our members. And this is a livelihood. We are talking about real people that are suffering, real people that cannot pay their bills anymore, real people that are displaced out of their businesses. And that causes also a direct impact in the communities, the city. Sales taxes are not being collected because there are no sales. Businesses are not paying their business tax certificates because there is no business. There is no building to go back to and no help. What I can tell you is that to be diligent, to be honest and transparent about the storm drain system cleanup fees that we already get paid and charged from our water bill, to be diligent, to be consistent, to do it. As a business owner, I can tell you that day by day, I have to have a plan where I have to make decisions that prevent future problems. I can't wait for the problem to come and then think, oh, I'm going to try to solve it now. And that's what I saw with the cleanup of the creek. After the devastation, I saw heavy machinery throughout the creek cleaning everything up. As the rains continue heavily, maybe less than a foot of water was running to the creek. Why? Because it was properly clean afterwards. To our city officials, I tell you as a resident of District 4, homeowner, business owner, president of the Diamond Business Association, be diligent, be intentional. Don't be reactive, but proactive. Do the job for which we hired it to do. And don't insult us by trying to save $2,500 or $5,000 and maybe an additional $500,000. It is too little, too late. However, I think I still can see you guys doing the right thing. Thank you so much, Marco Ortiz.
And I also want to note some of the taxpayers that are standing with me today, Mr. Paul Kruger, Brian, Gooden, and also on my team, Sabelle Thompson. And I want to underscore something very important in closing. It is important that we see how much money the city has spent on relief and recovery efforts, because we want to see whether the city could have spent less preventing this disaster. And I just want to underscore this man-made disaster because the mayor of this city has noted that this is a God-made disaster. But the reason why it's not a God-made disaster is because it's a man-made disaster. Prevention could have stopped the drastic disaster from expanding and displacing over 1,000 families. Had the creeks been clean, had there been a priority of addressing this, this could have been prevented. So folks should not let anybody try to gaslight them on this issue. Make no mistake about it. This is a man-made disaster. It could have been prevented, something could have been done, and we could have ensured that the taxpayer dollars that were invested years ago, last year and the year before and the year before, that those taxpayer dollars work for the hardworking San Diegans across our city. And the hardworking San Diegans who have invested time and time again in trying to get infrastructure and some of these other issues to underscore the reality of climate change. We cannot hear these excuses anymore about we need more money from the people. Because here's the problem with that. We're going to be asked for another tax next year, and we're going to keep doing this thing, and it's an unfair relationship. We need to see a fair and a more precise relationship that gives and takes, and ensures that the taxpayers get their due response and support, just like the city wants its support. So I just want to underscore that this is important, particularly because what we want to see is, has the amount of money that has been spent on relief in response to this disaster that decimated neighborhoods south and east of downtown, could that have been prevented with less money? And then finally, we want to see that breakdown. Are the people getting the hotel vouchers? Are we top heavy in this city? Who are we spending the money on in this relief moment? And then finally, we might have to have some tough conversations, folks. Maybe we're a little bit too top heavy in this city, because even the city workers at the bottom end of the organizational chart can probably testify that they probably could be paid a little bit more dollars too. Maybe we're a little too top heavy, paying some folks $200,000 plus who just sitting in an office all day. I mean, we got to really get real about where we might have to make some cuts and where we might have to invest more to ensure that this city is really working for all of us, as the mayor says. So, we are announcing today a Public Records Act request for the amount of money that was spent since January 22nd on the city's relief efforts specific to the floods, and the breakdown in which those dollars, where they have gone. We want that breakdown, and we want that amount within the next 10 days. We know that there's a mandated 10-day requirement that is the initial requirement for a PRA request. We know that the city has already started to request this information. Might I note that the city noted this in a recent email. If I can pull it up here. So, the city recently sent out an email that was on January 29th, 2024, named January Storm Event. This was to inside city employees. It directs city employees to code their time card entries, purchase orders, and allocations for P-card and fuel purchases related to the January 2024 storm event to a specific internal order number for ease of the city tracking all expenses related to the storm event. So, in closing, I would say that there should be no reason why this aggregated data should be so hard to recover, and we look forward to recovering this for the people of San Diego. Thank you so much, and that concludes our news conference.
Can I get a picture of the two of you?
Want to do it right here?